Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 11:17 on the 26th of September 2023. I'm making this video because I'm sitting out here in my garden, surrounded by sunshine and beauty and nature and happiness. But it's very, very quiet. And because it's very quiet, the Tanya is on the brink of anarchy and chaos and revolution and has an urge to primal scream. But I won't, because the neighbours will freak out. They're all so mundane. But I get it. It's a bit freaky when someone randomly screams for no reason. Like what happened to me at the club a few weeks back when those two young men decided to primal scream in front of me and try and intimidate the old lady, you know. It's context and a time and a place for everything, I suppose. But anyway, I've decided to make this video because I had a reasonably good night last night. I was only up twice during the night. That's a good night, people. Very good night. Usually it's at least 4 or 5 times. But I still feel hung, drawn and quartered. I'm still quite drained, and I've got a bit of a cold sore brewing, which is not pleasant either. So we can add herpes simplex to my multitude of other, life disordering problems. Anyway, the disruption is real, and the vortices of both good and evil twirling in infinity above my head right now are very, very quiet, like a silent, sneaking assassin. There is something heavy going on in the planet. I know that because the auguries of my seagulls the other day, Sunday, was very beautiful, but also a little bit astonishing. Yes, amassing of militaries on certain frontiers. It might not even be physical or humanistic militaries, but those of the spirit realm amassing in our quite cumulative spiritual war that's been going on since the COVID epoch began. So I'm making this video because anyone that knows me or watches the videos knows that I have been manifesting, affirming, dreaming of, hoping for, aspiring to, yearning, longing. I mean, it's pathetic, people. Like, I have to laugh. It's a bit pathetic. But I've been, wishing for a true love partnership to manifest in my life now for decades. Especially since, well, not so much immediately when I left my husband, because I was in such a intense trauma state. I actually needed a long respite from any frottering of the sexual kind. I think it was 2 years before I finally reanimated my sexuality again. I was completely wrecked for the last 3 months of my 29th year, and my 30 and 31st. And I think I was 32 before I re-entered my sexuality, and that was a mistake too, because once again I drew in another fucking sadist and a psychopath. So you get that. The rest is history, darling. 20 plus years of therapy later, and I still have not broken that pattern, which is why I went through long phases of celibacy and asexuality in the last 29 years. The current one has lasted 8 years. 8 years, I think I'm into the 9th year now. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that, I've got enough health issues going on at the moment downstairs with the bladder failing. I don't really think my organs need to be jiggled around as well, quite frankly. Might just be a little bit too much for the old hobbit body to handle. Alternatively, it might do me the power of good, but we won't know because I won't go. So you have to laugh about that. So on that note, the funny thing, on the note of the jiggling of organs note, the funny thing is I've been thinking deeply about the fact that I've been having weird dreams in the previous 3 months about my ex-husband, who I'm completely ambivalent. I feel neither. I certainly haven't felt love for that man for eons, but I feel no real hatred either. I'm just meh. So it was very strange that I started dreaming of him. And then I found out only in recent weeks, about a week or so ago, that via my now estranged daughter, because she was so savage to me when I told her I felt like I was dying, which I have felt like I've been dying many times in my life because I've had very poor health. But she sadistically kicks me in the face when I'm down. So there is that. This is what happens when you breed with dull intellect psychopaths. It's like a gift that keeps giving. But anyway, but my daughter did inform me that that her father had come close to dying in the last month or so, which I found a bit astonishing, quite frankly, given that I'd been dreaming, not of his dying, but dreaming of him, or themes of him turning up in my dream space. And I thought it was odd and wondered what was going on, but I wasn't going to ask because I don't care that much. And I've known, if I in the past when I attempted to make contact, he was so savage and just ridiculous. So why would you bother? Like, he's of no interest to me at all, So anyway, I've been sitting on this all day late last night. I was going to make this video late last night actually, because I got very triggered watching a movie about the Romani people. It was a very good movie, TV show. Can't remember what the name of it was, but very enjoyable. Obviously about how othering and discrimination affect the gypsy people, and and breaking out of the patriarchal traditional ways of being married off very young. The young woman, 17-year-old woman, was being married off to pay off her father's gambling debt. All very triggering because it's sort of that level of abuse that I grew up with. Although I wasn't married off to pay off a gambling debt, I was married off because my mother was 55 years old and just didn't want to be responsible for a teenager, and just wanted to get her own life, and was completely, selfish. I was forced into that situation in more ways than one, darling, or even though she denied it. And part of it was I also wanted to escape her, so there was that. She made it very difficult for me to even want to stay at home in the family home, because I was just surrounded by such constant evil. It was untenable, unsurvivable. I don't know how it survived at all, quite frankly. I still don't know how I survived it all. So anyway, I've sat on this dream that I had yesterday morning because it's the second time I've dreamt it. I take notice when I have repetitive dreams of the same themes or the same imagery or the same characters repeating over and over and over again. I don't know necessarily if it means anything in particular, but it's kind of the fact that it's repeating. It's like there's a message there that the spirits or my subconscious or my higher mind or creator wants me to integrate into my psyche, right? I see my earrings are turned back to front. We don't want that. We don't want back to front. I'm wearing my little mushrooms with a nice red blouse someone gave me. The mushrooms were made by my daughter. Oh, that's just a constant ache that never quite goes away. How they're just so vicious to me when I'm vulnerable and ill. It's just sadistic. There's no other word to describe it. Anyway, so but I'm still honouring and appreciating things that she's made for me, and because true love, a mother's love, is very hard to kill. I discovered about 15 years ago when they tried to kill it then. So there is that. So anyway, my dream yesterday morning upon waking up was intense. I debriefed about it with my friend Jared. So it goes like this. I'm visiting some man, and he's quite good looking, quite handsome. He looked quite a bit like my ex-lover David Davidson, who haunted me when he died after 16 years of no contact. Punched his fists and ran up my steps and punched his fists on the door. And that went on for 4 consecutive nights, each night the sound muting slightly until it's faded away, because he obviously lost the spiritual mana to maintain the loud stomping and hammering, right? And I put a prayer out at the time because I had no idea who the spirit was. It was scaring my dog too. And I put a prayer out, and then I found out in a very magical, miraculous way on day 3 that it was him who had died. So then it made perfect. La Brioute, you can tell I'm telling the truth. It made perfect sense then as to who was visiting my doorway that way. Perfect sense, but also, it was quite astonishing and alarming and a bit frightening. So yesterday morning I'm dreaming of this man who looked a bit like David Davidson, but he was shorter, but he had a similar face. And so I looked at him straight away. I said to him, he hadn't even spoken yet. I said, "Oh, you're Israeli." And he looked at me and said, "How do you know that?" I said, "I can just tell by your face," which I do that. I did that in real life to a man from Afghanistan early this year. It freaked him out completely. And his message to me was, "Let go of your ex," which I thought was hilarious. Because no man, woman or child or spirit has the right to tell me to let go of anything or anyone. I decide how I manage my emotions and my love affairs, and whom I choose to let go of or not let go of, as the case may be. Certainly not under orders by some sleazy man trying to get onto me like, "I don't think so." So anyway, so it was quite funny. Even when I told Jared about that encounter with that Afghani man, he said, "No man tells you to let go of anyone, Tanya. No man never tells you what to do. You will do the opposite." And we laughed about it at the time. So anyway, so I'm dreaming yesterday morning, just upon waking up, with this nice Israeli man that I, had acknowledged he was Israeli. And so it was quite strange because I seemed to be in his house, and we were sitting together or reclining on a couch. And he looks at me and he says to me, "I want to marry you." And I said, "You can't marry me. You don't even know me. Like, we've clearly just met, or maybe it's first visit to his home or something along those lines." And he said, "I know that in the dream," I'm talking the dream, what's being said in the dream here. So he says to me, "I know that you're a kind person, Tanya, and that we could have a good life together, and that you would be able to support me in raising my baby." And I went, "A baby?" And he picks up this, I don't know, 3 to 6 month old baby, a fairly young baby, and he puts him in my arms. The baby's all swaddled up in a little, baby rug, puts him in my arms. He said, "Yes," he said, I'm widowed, my wife died, and I'm now left to raise this infant by myself and my 7-year-old son. So this little boy appears in the dream, sweet little boy, and looks at me, all interested. And he said, so I need a mother for my sons. And he said, and I think you would fit the bill perfectly. So I'm looking at this man. He was about 10 years younger than me. Like, he wasn't young, but he was, about 10 or so years younger than me. And so I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this is actually kind of insane. And I said to him, look, I said, that's very sweet and all. I said, but I'm 58 years old. I've raised 2 adult women, both of whom hate me, or certainly have no real regard or respect for me, especially when I'm weak and vulnerable and ill, which is frequently as I'm descending into old age. I said, I'm not equipped to raise another 2 very young children, certainly not a baby. I said, if you'd met me, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, I would have been thrilled to take on an infant and raise another child. I said, but I'm past it now. I actually believe that on some level that I'm dying, and I don't anticipate living much longer. Maybe, I'll be lucky to make 5 years. I said, so I've even given myself a time frame, people. And so I said to him, that's totally unacceptable to take on someone's children knowing that I don't have time on this planet to make a commitment to them. A child needs a 20-year commitment to raise them to adulthood at least. And I said, there is no way in hell or on God's earth that I can make that commitment to an infant. And also I said, I'm not in love with you. I don't even know you. He said, I just need someone. And I know you will give them a good life for however long you've got left on this planet, Tanya, that you would be good to my children and you would give them love and a good life. And whatever happens, happens. So I've realised in the dream state, in the dreamscape, it's my subconscious saying, just realise what that means. There's new life opportunities opening up for you, almost like offering an olive branch of this is the possibilities of new life that can still blossom for you, even in the last phase of your life, not to give up, right? But a 20-year commitment is too much to take on. I can't commit to that. Realistically, I just can't, because I know how unwell I am and how unwell I have been in the past, since the gallbladder surgery, really, which was 4 years. Yeah, 4 years, just over 4 years ago. I knew the Spirit said, we're sending you back to tie up loose ends. So I knew this was going to be my last hurrah on planet Earth. So, and I haven't actually tied up loose ends, but I did do a lot of burning of old paperwork and things that were cluttering my life and blocking me from success and blocking me from creativity and moving forward. And so I did a lot of that. Came up in my memories yesterday about me burning cases, photo albums, and all the things connected to those predatory family members that were just so sick and evil. I got most of the paperwork and unless they were really historical photos. I even burnt some of those because I just got into a bit of a burning high and got rid of it all because it's just holding me back, right? Well, one of the things my last lover that I held a torch for said to me was to declutter, and I've certainly done that. But it's too late now for me to start a new serious relationship with anyone, because I know my time is my time is limited now. Or I believe my time is limited. I've been wrong before, but I'd certainly in real world would be loath to take on a man with an infant baby to raise, because I know I can't promise 20 years to a child, and I'm not well, and I wouldn't have the energy to raise a baby, and all the attendant domestic, duties. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd crack up. I really would crack up. But anyway, it was a wonderful dream in a way, because he just sort of looked at me and said, "You're a wonderful woman, Tanya, and I'm prepared to love you and be your man, but in return have you love us, me and my children, and together we'll have a nice life." And it was like there was a real heartfelt sweetness in that. I thought, oh, that's such a lovely dream. But then it got a bit weird, because being Israeli and being male, and probably it was an old memory of, the sexual relationship I had with Davidson, who could be a bit boundaryless, actually, almost bordering on rape. It was a bit boundaryless. So in the dream, this man actually, lay beside me and turned to me and pressed himself against me, and I could feel his erection, right? So I kind of freaked out and jumped up off the couch and said, "There'll be none of that. I'm not here for that." And but even then I was sort of kind of greatly amused at his attempt to seduce me into a sexual liaison, right? And I was like, oh, here we go. They can't just, even in the dream state, they can't just leave me alone and treat me with absolute respect. They've got to push the envelope. Anyway, it was kind of funny. Anyway, so having jumped off his couch and telling him there'll be none of that, I stood there in his living room looking at his little children, thinking, oh dear, his little boy and little baby, thinking, oh dear God, this is just ridiculous, which it was, because it was a dream, it's not real people. But I said to him, look, I don't know you, and I certainly don't want to have sex with you, especially with your children around, which is a trauma memory, because Davidson used to try that on with me. It was really disrespectful and vile. And and I said, and I'm not prepared to take on, the burden of raising babies, and you need a younger woman who's more vigorous and, vivacious and sexually vital as well, and can even give you more children if you wanted more children. And he just sort of looked at me, and then I woke up. So that was my dream. Anyway, it stayed with me all day yesterday and all night. And I thought this morning, sitting here, I better record it, because there'll be something in that dream. It's the second time I've dreamt it. This man showing me his baby, asking me to help him raise his child. It's the second time I've dreamt it, so there's something in that dream that's important for me to remember. Probably if I meet anyone in the near future, or not that I've met anyone, but if I meet anyone that interests me, romantically or relationship-wise in the future, there's a message there to remind me I am allowed to blossom out in my sexuality, and I'm giving myself permission to love and be loved and live a full and vibrant life, but I'm just cognizant that I may not have a lot of time left on this planet. So it would have to be almost a sweetness and a kind and supportive, nurturing, loving partnership. And the man would have to be very cognizant that I don't have much time and not lay any heavy burdens on me, certainly about raising babies. That would never happen. I would just be like, nope, sorry, I have integrity and you can't do that to a child. But then maybe the child in the dream represents, like I said before, new opportunities, birthing of new creativity, because certainly in the last almost 3 years, since January 2021, I birthed new creations into the world via my jewellery, right? Even though I was quite unwell and we were fighting our way through the COVID paradigm, I reactivated my creativity in quite astonishing and profound ways because, well, as my psychiatrist said, I was cocooning myself at home, keeping myself safe, while working on my silversmithing that I was teaching myself, and I'll be teaching myself that for a long, long time till I gain any kind of mastery, because I don't have tutors, and I'm doing it via YouTube, videos, and it's a long, slow process. But I'm improving in leaps and bounds because I've put in the work on a daily basis. Not always daily, but most days. I've put in the work, learning new skills and trying new things and improving at my soldering. So yes, that very much is a baby that would need another 20 years to fully develop. So so the dream is actually quite accurate if you look at it laterally, not literally. And me wanting to walk away because I don't think I have the time to commit to it. Well, it's not so bad with a creative outlet like a non-animate object like jewellery. But, children need commitment. Children need daily and nightly consistent love and support. And they need a mother who's present, which I wasn't present through a lot of both my children's childhood, because I was so fucking mentally unwell with major depression that I was in bed most of the time, completely knocked off, sleeping, barely coherent, which is part of why I've created little monsters that look at me like I'm some kind of freak and dishonour me now that I'm vulnerable and potentially dying. But this is not a new hell loop I've been on with them, Both my daughters were absolutely savage to me when I had that hysterectomy and vaginal repair and bladder repair, when they installed the Johnson & Johnson TV tape on 30th of October 2007. I came home completely wrecked from that experience, completely broken and wrecked. And, Jasmine couldn't even make me a cup of tea, had moved into my house while I was in the hospital recovering from the surgery. It took me 5 days to recover because I got a major bladder infection as well while I was in that hospital after that surgery. It was heinous. Don't ask me how I survived that. I actually considered throwing myself from the top roof of the hospital. It was that bad. But anyway, I came home and Jasmine had moved in my house temporarily. I can't even remember what her rationale for that was. She took one look at me and I picked up all my soiled, dirty clothing that had been at the hospital. It was all, really, really quite dirty. Probably should have been burnt, quite frankly. And I was told not to lift anything heavier than 5 kilos lest I rip open all the surgical repair, right? But I didn't want my daughter, Jasmine, who's quite a princess, quite frankly, to touch any of that because it was dirty, it stunk and it was filthy. So I picked it up and I walked to the laundry, through the kitchen to the laundry, and she started screaming at me, "You're not supposed to lift anything heavy and look at what you're doing." And I said, "Jasmine, I don't want you to touch this. It's been at the hospital mouldering in bacteria for 5 fucking days." I said, I'm carrying it because I don't want anyone else to touch it. Anyway, and I said, would you please at least make me a cup of tea? And she flew into some psychotic rage and said, I can't deal with this shit. I'm moving out. I literally had not been home about 20 minutes, not even that. And she starts shrieking at me, packs up, moves out, was gone within the hour. That's the level of support I received from my younger daughter, traumatising me when I was already in a trauma state coming home from that hospital, alone, without assistance, by the way. And Crystal, at that stage, was up in Toowoomba studying. I think she was up in Toowoomba when she was doing her acting degree. It wasn't available to support me. And the same shit happened again when I had the suicide attempt, the viciousness. And the same shit happened again. That was in 2015. And the same evil shit happened again when I had the gallbladder surgery. In fact, driving back from the hospital, my daughter pulled a fist back and went to punch me in the face. So, and I keep forgiving these monsters. Like, why? Why would you bother? Why would you bother? Now that I'm weak and ill, and it's probably my last few months or years on this planet, I just want peace. I just want happiness. I just want to be chilled out in my garden, telling you about the spirit world and all my little funny little dreams and my little auguries with the birds, wild birds that come, and any other wild creatures that pass by. I don't need any more trauma activation, any more evil, any more negativity. I just want to go dancing on the weekend. At the moment, I'm only going once a fortnight, which is out of character for me. I used to go every weekend, but I'm just saving my precious energy and time to go and dance for the band I like, Alter Egos, that I've supported for 13 years, and just reserve my energies for spaces that make me welcome and for people that I know are reasonably friendly towards me. I don't have time or energy to put myself in negative spaces anymore. I just don't. When the Treasury Casino management started strong-arming me via their security guard, squawking at me about having my little spot in front of the stage, which I had for 13 years, I just walked away. I'm done fighting for every little fucking thing. I don't have time. I literally don't have the time anymore. And I certainly don't have the energy. I'm tired. So, but yes, I will continue dancing for my favourite bands. Like, there's a few other bands I like the Hip Shooters, and they play blues. And, there's a few other spaces I could go to and have lovely, time dancing in. But I'm such a creature of habit. I just stick to what I know, where I'm comfortable and where I feel relatively safe. And I'll just do that. Just keep to my usual routines and sit in my garden with my little birdie and enjoy life. Life's meant to be enjoyed, people. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that little video about the dream because it's got me a little bit thinking as to, I don't know, whom I might meet in the future. It's just a bit strange. And continuously adhering to my truth and loving my life in a world paradigm that's gone completely inverted and mad. It's actually not an easy thing to do, holding one's truth in one's line. Can you see behind me the lovely hippeastrums? We'll go closer. We'll go closer. There they are. Aren't they gorgeous? So I have a lot of things to be grateful for. I have a wonderful psychiatrist who's fighting for me to get proper medical treatment for my bladder. I get very dizzy the last couple of days. I don't know what that's about. Probably just exhaustion. I have true friends who love me, and the spirits and the ancestors that love me, and the angels, and, you know, acquaintances out in the music scene that like me. And I'm contented with that. That's all that I have at the end of my life. It's a lot. Having my psychiatrist support me the way he is doing now is just amazing, and I'm so grateful to you. So bye for now from Sacred Space, and I'm going to carry on with my day. I've got some more jump rings to make. I'll take you inside and I'll show you. I worked on that yesterday, even though I was feeling quite weak and dizzy yesterday. I worked all day on it until, I think I started on it about, not sure what time I started. I think it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I worked on it till about 7:30, I think 7:30, 8 o'clock, around about that time, I can't remember. All my little flowers I'm turning into, this way, turning into hair clips. So for years I've had no self-esteem, sense of purpose, was raising children, being demonised and vilified, attacked and strangled, knocked everything out. I mean, like, then the viciousness with the will dispute for my mother took 2.5 years of my life, from 2010 to 2012 September. It was just venal. It's all so venal. So it's taken me years to regroup and even be this amazingly creative in my old age when I feel like I'm dying, which is ridiculous and sad and absurdist, but for me it's very real, because I really do feel that weak and ill. But anyway, I made this chain yesterday. I'm not finished because I want it to be short, but I'll put it around my neck. It only comes to there because I've got a very thick, fat, I've always had a short, thick neck, you know, unfortunately. So I have to make another 8 to 10, where is it? 8 to 10 of these little links. And because I want it to come at least to here. Yes, I think 8 more links should do it. I want it to come to there. I want it to be a bit shorter, because most of my chains I've made quite long, because I prefer long chains to distract from the big fat neck, right? But what I'm doing is I'm layering like 2 or 3 pendants at a time, because if you've got it, flaunt it, baby, and I've got a lot of jewellery and I need to wear it. It's not getting worn. So I thought if I make a slightly shortish chain to about there, and then I can have a pendant hanging down from there to there. And then I'll have the longer pendants that hang there. It should look quite nice. And then I've got a choker pendant. See, this could work as a choker now. But see, it does nothing for me. Like, well, all you see is wrinkles and flab and strangled neck that's been recalibrated. Don't forget all the moshing I did to the song Zombie by the Cranberries as well. Probably everything's completely out of alignment. But anyway, I'm content with my wild ways and my wild dancing and my joyful existence. As I said to my psychiatrist in my therapy session, I said, I might be dying, doctor. Well, I personally believe I am in my last stage of life now, well and truly. But I had a good time the last 4 years. I made jewellery. I even fixed up, renovated pieces of furniture. I painted furniture. I renovated my mother's marble table, 2 marble tables. I renovated a big slab I had because after 17 years the varnish had gone off. I've achieved a lot, I've worked hard to have things nice in my home how I like it. I even painted up this little, can you see it? This little yellow chest of drawers that a neighbour down the street gave me before she moved away. Painted it yellow. My last project was I stripped the ambulance. This was an ambulance box, and I stripped the paint off it and put burnt Titania's realm into it and varnished it. And it now holds my, ta-da, my silver wire. So, I have not been lazy, people. I mean, there's days when I can't actually physically do anything because I'm too fucking ill. But I've always been like that, even as a teenager and a young wife and a young mother. And after I left that pig, when I was 29 going on 30, then I was stuck in zombie mode for another 20 years. So it's really only the last 8 years since the suicide attempt in 2015 that I started to pull myself together and realise no one's coming to save me. I have to be self-determined. I have to try and get myself out of the serious mental health issues that I came pre-programmed with from birth. And of course, the initial wounding with the child sexual abuse when I was 6 years old. And I have had to rise above all of that destruction and despair and filth and build a life for myself with the fairy realm, Titania's realm, the fairies. Can't even see it, can you? Here it is. I've had to build a life for myself, and I've only done that in the last 8 years, really. Recalibrated, defragmented my brain, and I've given it a bloody good go. As I said to my psychiatrist, I've loved my life in the last few years. I've had a good time. I really have. I've tried very, very hard. Here is up here is lovely flowers that my neighbours gave me after Beauregard died. 2 weeks after he died, they came over with those lovely flowers. Here's my familial monsters you hear me going on about all the time. My mother, Gisela Phillips, as she was then, and Case van der Graft. So, I'm not lying about who they were and what they did to me. I don't need to lie. The truth and my physical decline is self-evident after decades and decades of malevolence. So I'm not an idiot. I'm a very powerful spirit. I've survived the completely unsurvivable. And I've fought hard. Every day was a constant battle to survive the damage wrought by those people. And I've done well. I've done really well. So I wanted one thing out of life. Oh, look. The orchid my neighbour down the street gave me. Where is it? It's opened up another bloom. Just beautiful. Absolute beautiful. Thank you, Margot. She said she kills all her orchids and then she gives it to me just as it was starting to bloom. So I've got the benefit of this beautiful orchid spray and oh well, but she wanted me to have it now and that was very sweet and kind and generous of her. So I often have to run water over my face. I get very hot. I feel cloying and dry and awful, so I often run cold water over my hands and face. Don't know what that's about, but that's what I need right now. So my dreaming about true love, finding a man that wants me to raise his babies. I'm very amused by that because I've always, all my life wanted a truly loving partner who gets me and vibes with me and respects me and dances with me and is a wonderful, devoted lover and friend and companion and, is loyal and faithful, not shagging all my friends or every acquaintance that ever met in the casino scene. Like the last one did, it was absolutely evil and sadistic what I was put through. So, but obviously I've reached acceptance. There's someone that's that sick and distorted to play those kind of games. Was not worthy of me and was not the one. Because the right man wouldn't behave that way. He'd be grateful and happy and delighted and thrilled to have me on his arm and by his side and as his life partner and companion. He would respect me, right? So that's my goal. I'm waiting still for that wonderful human being to enter my life who is my partner in all things and makes my life beautiful. But the tragedy is it may be too late. I may be too old now and I'm too ill and I might not survive long enough to even have time to have a love partnership. So the love I poured into those monsters, including the last one, cost me dearly. It cost me time that I could have had with someone who was genuine and wonderful and caring and sincere and adoring. And there were a few men that popped up in the last 8 years that were interested, but I was so in love with that other entity that I am also still quite traumatized too, that I wouldn't give anyone else a chance. I just wouldn't go there. It's like, don't have the energy to invest in someone that might yet again turn toxic and evil and awful and rob me of my life force, my chi, my creativity, and my love for my own self and my own life, like all the others did. So that's the reality, people. But one by one, my ex-lovers come to me in spirit form when they die. It's quite bizarre. Even my ex-husband, who I have no loving affection towards anymore and haven't for decades, well over 3 decades, haunt me in my dreams, and he's not even dead yet. See, this is the power of my love, people. When I went into things, when I met my ex-husband, I was 17, I was young and naive, and he came across as a jolly, happy-go-lucky, genuinely friendly. He had friends that really loved him, and so I thought he was actually a decent person. He was well regarded by his friends. And then within a short space of time of us being together, he even turned vicious on his long-time friends that actually introduced us together, Adrian Shine and Susan Shine. He turned savage on them. And that was the first red flag that I should have been aware of. Like, you get a new girlfriend and suddenly your friends aren't good enough for you. Great act of disloyalty there. So, anyway, it is what it is. Adrian Shine's mother, Sylvia Shine, remained friends with me and stays on my, still to this day, even though she passed away, I think it was 2014, I think she passed away. She still pops up in my Facebook memories each day, little comments which I carefully preserve and copy and paste over across with my writings onto vocal media. All her little wisdoms, because in those days she was in her 80s, you know, I carefully nurture and preserve because I didn't have a nurturing, restorative, protective, loving mother. So growing up, I had many mothers or female role models who were older and wiser, who gifted me courage and strength to survive my childhood and my life, with Gisela Phillips, formerly Gisela Meyer. So Sylvia Shine was one of my mothers, and I'm grateful for women like her that were good to me and helped me form my personality and helped me be the woman I am today. And I'm quite certain when I cross over that I will meet those wonderful women again, or I hope that I will meet them again. And it gives me a great sense of peace to know that real love is eternal, people. And on that note, I'm going to go. Have a beautiful day, people, in the space-time continuum. And every day in every way, love the ones you're with, honourably, truly, loyally and faithfully. And if you can't love them, strive to not damage them at the very least. You know, walk away with your head held high, with grace and dignity, and just let shits go, because if they're harming you, they're not for you. That was the hardest lesson I had to learn from my life, is to know when to walk away, know when to hold my head high, know when to fold my cards on the table and throw it into the kitty and go, this is just not edifying and nourishing or sweet or kind. And I had to walk away and I had to accept. I still haven't fully accepted it, to be honest, that I'm in this life alone and that I'm not allowed a loving family that's nurturing and protective and kind. I'm not allowed a loving partner that can provide all those things. It's just simply denied me by God or the gods, whoever runs this universe. It has been denied me. I had to learn to navigate this life alone on my own terms, under extreme duress situations and in extreme poverty for decades. So now I make little fripperies with my whatever extra bit of pension money I have left, hoping to get myself established in a business and make my life beautiful. And it's a bit sad that it's too little too late, but it's the cards that were dealt me. There was nothing I could have done differently, given the long years of trauma and the long years of concurrent abuse. you know, that held me back. So, but I'm happy in my garden. Happy with and in my garden. Very, 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 very happy. Bye for now. God's bless.